Even without Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever make postseason for second straight season. The world of sports often revolves around singular figures. A star player becomes the heartbeat of a franchise, the one whose name lights up headlines and whose jersey flies off store shelves. For the Indiana Fever, that player was Caitlin Clark. From the moment she stepped onto the WNBA hardwood, her presence transformed not just the team but the league itself. Her deep threes, court vision, and charisma drew millions of fans, many who had never tuned into a women's basketball game before. The Fever, once languishing at the bottom of the standings, suddenly had life, relevance, and hope. But the 2025 season took an unexpected twist. An injury forced Clark to the sidelines early, raising the pressing question, could the Fever survive, let alone thrive, without their superstar? As the months rolled by, the answer surprised everyone. Against the odds, and without the player who had been hailed as the savior of the franchise, the Fever clawed their way into the postseason for the second straight year. Their story became less about one generational talent, and more about the collective heart of a team determined to prove it was built for the long haul. The moment Caitlin Clark went down was a hush heard around the WNBA. It wasn't just Indiana's season that seemed to hang in jeopardy. It was the league's momentum. Analysts predicted freefall. Commentators began counting losses before games were played. The Fever, they said, would crumble without her shooting, without her leadership, without her star power. Yet inside the locker room, a different mood pulsed. Veteran leaders like Kelsey Mitchell and Erica Wheeler gathered the team. "We're more than one player," Mitchell told reporters after Clark's injury was confirmed. "We love Caitlin. She's our sister. But we can't fold. We've got a whole season left, and nobody's going to hand us anything." That moment became a spark. Instead of despair, the Fever leaned into resilience. Instead of chasing Clark's shadow, they embraced their identity as a unit. What happens when a star leaves the stage? Often, the spotlight shifts to the overlooked performers who were always there, waiting for their moment. Aliyah Boston, the 2023 Rookie of the Year, became that anchor. With Clark sidelined, Boston's presence in the paint grew monumental. Her footwork sharpened, her defensive reads became even quicker, and her ability to dominate the boards gave Indiana a foundation they could always rely on. She wasn't just a rising star anymore. She was the franchise cornerstone. Kelsey Mitchell, one of the league's most underrated scorers, emerged as the offensive engine. Night after night, she shouldered the scoring load, slashing through defenses, burying threes, and reminding everyone that before Clark, Mitchell was already the Fever's heartbeat. Her leadership wasn't flashy, but it was steady, the kind that kept the locker room from splintering under pressure. Then there were the role players, Christy Wallace and Alyssa Smith, Lexi Hull, athletes who became fearless contributors. Wallace's perimeter defense stifled some of the league's best guards. Smith's versatility as a forward gave the team flexibility, while Hull's hustle plays became the intangible glue holding games together. Without Clark, the Fever weren't weaker. They were different, and that difference became their weapon. The Fever had been riding the wave of Clark's long-range shooting and fast-paced defense. Without her, they had to reimagine their style. Coach Christy Sides shifted strategies. Instead of leaning heavily on one star, she fostered a defense-first, inside-out approach. Games became gritty, low-scoring battles rather than shootouts. Boston and Smith controlled the paint. Mitchell orchestrated the offense with patience and poise. The team's defensive rotations tightened, and suddenly, Indiana wasn't just surviving. They were grinding out wins that nobody expected. Fans noticed the shift. Attendance, which many thought might dip with Clark's absence, remained strong. Fever supporters rallied behind the underdog narrative, showing up not just to cheer for Clark's magic but for the grit of a team proving its worth in the harshest of circumstances. Sports are never just about scores. They're about emotion, fear, doubt, courage, and triumph. For the Fever, this season was a test of emotional resilience as much as physical ability. There were nights of frustration, when shots didn't fall and turnovers piled up. There were games when opponents smelled weakness and tried to break Indiana's spirit with relentless pace. And there were moments when the team visibly missed Clark's calm in clutch situations. But in those moments, new voices rose. Mitchell became the closer. Boston became the enforcer. Wheeler became the motivator, often gathering teammates in huddles, her voice cutting through the noise of arenas. "We've been counted out our whole lives. she reminded them. This is nothing new. That collective belief forged bonds that were deeper than any single highlight reel. Every season has defining games, the ones that shift perception and galvanize belief. For the Fever, one came in mid-July against the reigning champions, the Las Vegas Aces. Few gave Indiana a chance. The Aces were stacked, led by A.J. Wilson and Chelsea Gray, while the Fever was still navigating life without Clark. But on that night, Aliyah Boston went toe-to-toe with Wilson, scoring 26 points and pulling down 15 rebounds. Mitchell added 22, hitting a dagger three in the final minute. Indiana shocked the league with a 78-75 victory. That win wasn't just about the standings. It was a statement, we belong. From that point on, belief spread. The Fever began stringing together wins, not always pretty, but always fueled by effort and trust. By August, the Fever were locked in a tight race for the final playoff spots. Every game mattered. Pressure mounted, and the whispers about whether they could actually make it without Clark grew louder. But Indiana responded with resilience. Boston played like an MVP candidate, Mitchell like an all-star, and role players like warriors refusing to be overshadowed. In one late-season thriller against the Chicago Sky, the Fever overcame a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter. Wheeler hit a clutch jumper. Smith forced a turnover. And with seconds left, Boston sealed the game with a block that echoed like a thunderclap. That victory secured Indiana's postseason berth. For the second straight year, the Fever were dancing in September. It would be easy to frame this season as the year without Caitlin Clark. But for the Fever, it became something richer. It became the year they proved their depth, resilience, and growth as a unit. Clark's return in the future would no doubt elevate them again. But now the Fever knew they weren't just a one-player team. They were a franchise with a core capable of competing at the highest level, with or without their superstar. Fans, too, grew to appreciate the collective story. They celebrated Boston's dominance, Mitchell's fire, and the contributions of players who rarely trended on social media but bled for every possession. In the broader landscape of the WNBA, Indiana's journey resonated. Too often, women's sports narratives hinge on individual stars. But the Fever reminded everyone of the power of team, of role players stepping up, of resilience against expectation. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like and share. Till next time.